Oh,
And I was like, well, what's going on? And then if you adjust like the wallpaper, or if you,
you mean the wallpaper?
yeah, wallpaper.
Was that French there?
I don't know. Yes, the wallpaper, or if you adjust.
That's great.
There's our beginning
Our intro there, yeah. The wallpepper. And then we got wall salt over here too. And here's our wall seasonal. It rhymes. We're going to make a commercial of it. Buy wall seasonal at your local groceries now. Like father,
like son.
just two regular guys that love to distro hop.
Not too technical or even bleeding edge.
But functional and necessary for getting things done.
In Linux and open source.
Join us as we learn together on the Father
and Son podcast.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 9 of the Like Father, Like Son Linux Review Podcast. I am Like Father.
And I'm like Son.
And I am James.
And I am James also.
In this Linux Review episode, we're going to be reviewing Bazzite OS, and we're going to be bringing more computers back into getting things done, old computers, of course, talking about apps like QOwnNotes, and we're also just going to be sharing a few things about Linux and open source. So let's go ahead and get started.
Do you have any, before we do get a little started, do you have any corrections from last episode?
I don't have any corrections from last episode, but if anybody has any, they can go ahead and let us know either on Discord or they can go ahead and do it on our Facebook. But please, even, let us know and we'll turn around and make sure we can make that correction in one of the future episodes that we do have going on. What about, have you been doing anything this week in Linux, open source, or general IT?
Jeez. I have been doing a lot of IT stuff. Most of it at work, actually. I don't know if you guys were there for Friday, July 19th.
No, it's going to be the day in history type thing, huh?
Yeah. As I heard it, it is the IT's version of COVID.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if you don't know what's happening there, this is when our blue screen of death on Microsoft machines from third party bug that got in there, and it killed a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and we're talking about big companies and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm not laughing or it's not funny, anything like that. I mean, some of these were hospitals and stuff like that. It's just,
I work for a hospital.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
For each of the major hospitals, at least 33,000 devices were affected just yesterday alone. We still have, when I left, we still had about 30,000 devices we still had to go through. We're still working on it, and we probably will for the rest of the week. Who knows?
And we're going to talk about this later on, but let's go ahead and talk about that now. Each individual machine has to be.
Yes.
So they have to be updated at that point or just reloaded or what?
So for us, the fix is when we can get a device into safe mode, we can go in and edit one particular file that's causing the issue.
Okay.
Once we restart the device, at that point, it will be able to connect to the internet and download the new file that fixes this issue overall.
Right.
But at first, it's causing a blue screen of death, and so a lot of people can't even get to their operating system to be able to actually access the file, much less change it.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing a lot of the issues. Do you know that Southwest Airlines is not affected by this by any means whatsoever?
And why is that?
Because it's running Windows 3.1 still.
Now, I have seen where places are still running Windows, 3.1.
XP
That has to be some type of extra thing that Microsoft did for them just to save them millions and zillions of bucks, and because no one else can do that. Some of us may have our favorite Windows, which would not be like, I know 3.1, 3.2, 3, those might be okay. but but some of the other ones got later on is just like, this is terrible. But we're not here really to slam Microsoft.
No, not by any means. I mean, we do like Linux, and well, we use Microsoft because we have to at times. I definitely use it because I have to work from it.
Right.
So, going on to that, talking about Linux in our day-to-day lives, I was able to actually work on Friday because my work device got the blue screen of death, and I couldn't get into the operating system to change that file whatsoever. So for me to be able to work, I loaded Citrix on my personal Linux operating system, was able to access my work files from there. So that was pretty fun.
Right. And that's pretty good. I got to miss out on some of that stuff because I was working on other things on Friday. So
like being off.
Yeah, it was nice being off, but I got to work on and get some other stuff done, and that was nice. What I did in IT and stuff like that or Linux actually, is I was able to get 2 older laptops. These were 2019 Lenovo's, I guess, X1 Carbons, probably revision or generation 7, so 2019. And I went ahead and got it set up, and for one of our employees, I had Windows on it. But for mine, I went ahead and set it up with a dual boot with Arch on it.
Nice.
And it works great. I mean, on the dual booting, the Arch is fast. It's great speed on it. Great battery life. I did not know those X1 Carbons had this battery life. They're the only ones I know that are anywhere close to your Apple Macs and stuff. Because I went all day long, and I still had like 35% left. Not even plugging it in. I plugged it up in at home, took it up to work, started around 8:30 in the morning or so, and I was leaving about 5:30 from the office, and it still had 35% left. Any of my other stuff, my Dells, whatever, they would have been gone in the morning.
Right.
Not even a chance. So that was pretty cool. The only thing about those Lenovo's is I wish you could upgrade them hardware-wise.
Oh, yeah.
You can change out the solid-state drives. They got the M.2s, NVMe's. But other than that, you can't change the memory if you wanted to. You couldn't do anything else whatsoever.
Can you change the battery?
You can change the battery, yes. That's about it. But and the batteries are running. These batteries on these were about 95% health or 97% health, so that's pretty good.
That's really good.
For how long? I don't know if they've been switched out or serviced at any time, but it's going to be good. And they're so lightweight, and I can just So I kind of gave up my Dell, if you will, on this one, which had touchscreen, so I can use this one. But this one here, I can take anywhere, coffee shop, whatever, work on my sermons or whatever I need to do, and it's just like 2 pounds, I think.
Nice.
It is really light, and so brought it back to life, so that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. So any app or open source that you want to talk about?
Well, hang on. I have to ask.
Okay.
Going back on your whole battery life thing, did you load anything? TLP, LinRunner?
No.
Nothing?
No. I not well, and I don't think Arch comes with it, automatically. So I haven't ran... there was no need to do anything else on it.
That's impressive. That really is.
And half the time I had it on balance and didn't realize I had it on balance. I can actually go to power saver.
Maybe even last a little bit longer.
And maybe there's not much different settings for the Lenovo X1 Carbons on that. It's a 14-inch screen. It's holding pretty bright and everything like that. I didn't adjust any of that. So it's really interesting. And like I said, it's the only one I ever had that had about the same amount of time that I know of as the Mac OSs or MacBook Pros and stuff like that. So it's really crazy. I gotta quit saying stuff like that. That drives me nuts.
But it's pretty cool. That is cool. Really cool.
And the other thing about the Lenovo X1 Carbons or any of the Lenovo's, so even that Yoga, I said that right?
Yeah, Yoga pads.
Yeah. The keyboards are really cool.
They got a little what do they call it? Touchback feedback.
I don't know what it is, but they feel great. And I could type faster on them. I'm not a great typer, so any extra word per minute I can get, I'm going to go for because, it'll help me. But I had to do tons of notes and tons of papers for my seminary classes. And I bought that Yoga, and it really did help, that ThinkPad Yoga. And it's just saved me a lot more time. And yeah, I was looking at a 13-inch screen back then, I think, but all I was doing was typing the paper. I'm looking at my books, I'm doing my resources and putting that all together. So by the time I'm getting onto the computer, I'm just typing the paper itself.
Right.
And you really don't. You're moving through that stuff so fast. It's not like within 2 or 3 days, you're going to actually have that back turned into the professor, and you already saved that onto a folder and doing other things.
Not even thinking about it.
So yeah, it really did help back when I was doing my schoolwork.
That's good.
All right. So any app or open source that you'd like to talk about?
Actually, I do. I had one that I ran into from either Bazzite actually has it too. BoxBuddy.
BoxBuddy. Okay. The BoxBuddy. I got to use the BoxBuddy. Yeah.
I was impressed with it. I did not know that it even existed. It made working with Distroboxes much easier, much quicker.
Yeah.
Because it is a graphical user interface, and it helps you go ahead and download those different distros, because it gives you a GUI, and it has those commands put in for you into the terminal to build those Distroboxes.
Right.
So for some people that are a little less technical, Distrobox is like a small virtual containerized OS.
Right. So the Distrobox, I guess we're going to put these into containers. So like if I want to load Arch,
right,
and use Arch on whatever operating system I'm using at that time, it will make a container just for Arch.
Correct.
And when you go into the terminal side of it, you'll actually go into the Arch terminal part first, and then you type it in and you do things in Arch. And I mean, if you're doing it in Arch, it's going to be, sudo pacman-s, capital S, and whatever package you want. So what this thing does is it goes ahead and puts all the distros that you have that you loaded. Like I want a few of the programs off of Arch, I want a few programs off of Ubuntu, and it's going to have it there, and you just click on it, and it's a graphics user interface type thing,
right?
And it'll open up that terminal for you automatically, so you don't have to remember, okay, how do I get into the Arch one? How do I get into this?
It also shows you if it's currently running. And it can tell you how long it's been running. It could tell you, say you refreshed it, and it tells you, oh, it broke, or it failed, or whatever.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
It is.
What was even more fun about it was because I was trying. My son was asking me to play Minecraft. Well, he's playing on a little tablet, which means that he's playing Bedrock Edition.
Okay.
They have Bedrock Edition for Windows, easy.
Yeah, I only
for
do
Android,
Dungeons, so I don't know any of the stuff. So
I play Dungeons too, but so it's on Windows real easy. Unfortunately, they don't have a Linux version.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Somebody else went out there and made a Linux version by kind of forking the Android version into it.
Right.
And so I downloaded that, and I was like, you know what? It'd be great to be able to have a little server, so all three, my son, my daughter, and myself could join in whenever. So I was like, well, I got Bazzite running right now. I tried to load it using the command off of GitAmp, or AMP from QCoder's AMP Instant Manager. Unfortunately, it failed.
Okay.
Even though it's Fedora, it's an OS tree, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Right.
OS RPM tree. So I was like, you know what? BoxBuddy. I went and loaded Arch on it, ran the code, and it immediately installed that, and I was able to get a little thing running across, and it works beautifully.
So it makes you wonder, is there BoxBuddy available on any other operating system?
Through FlatHub, it is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something we picked up. So every once in a while when we're doing this distro hopping stuff that we do, it makes you where you can go ahead and learn a new app.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that becomes the app you want to use now. And that's kind of, some of these apps that we picked over the time, we just picked, as we were going along.
Yeah.
So, not everybody had, of course, everybody had Steam, or everybody had, LibreOffice, or everybody had Firefox browser. So, but there's other browsers that we picked up along the way, because that was the main app that they're using for that function on that particular operating system. So that's another advantage of doing some distro hopping and checking things out. All right. So I know I mentioned this before, but QOwnNotes, QOWN I'm really liking that. QOwnNotes is a free, open source, plain text file markdown note-taking app. Okay, it also works well with Nextcloud or OwnCloud, and it integrates with it directly. It's pretty cool.
That is impressive.
It doesn't take much of a footprint. So it's fast. It's customizable. If you want to use some more stuff on it, you can. You can create a Nextcloud deck. The deck is kind of like Trello, or I want to say an open source version of the Trello is Lone Wolf, I believe.
I haven't used it.
I think I've only used it once for a little bit. It also has spell checking support. It's compatible with notes on your Nextcloud or your mobile Nextcloud stuff. Evernote or Joplin, you can import the stuff real quick into your Nextcloud.
That's really cool.
I did do that. That way I didn't lose some stuff to start with. Also, you got portable mode for carrying QOwnNotes around on a USB stick. I haven't tried that yet, but it sounds pretty cool. You got web applications, so you can insert the photos from your mobile phone into your current notes and QOwnNotes.
Nice.
It has Vim support. It has scripting types of support. You can also have where you encryption.
Nice.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
Anyway, you can have encryption. You can also do your to-do list or manage your to-do list. You can have side-by-side windows with the preview of what it's supposed to look like, because you're using Markdown, so you'd be using like, the number sign, space, and you get the title and, bold and everything like that. So you have the dark theme on it as well. You can take, and this, I checked this earlier today, and you can go back and pick up older versions of what you did. So if you edited something wrong, you can go grab it.
Nice.
It's showing it on the side of Nextcloud too, as things were changed. So the way I'm doing it is I'm taking my Nextcloud and I have that syncing right on my desktop.
Right.
I'm saving this file to my desktop folder, my Nextcloud in this case, and it's updating it periodically as I'm going along, just about every minute when you're doing that. Technically, if you're working on the other side on the same notes, if we had to be doing the same notes for the same show, it will be seeing each other's stuff update. It's kind of
awesome.
It's crazy, but that's neat. It is cross-platform. It could do things with Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. So all this is really neat, and that's how I've been doing my notes. I was using Joplin before, but Joplin will be saving stuff encrypted already. I kind of like the idea of if anything fails, I can just grab these and they'll just look like markdown notes. So kind of like Obsidian in a way, but Obsidian is a neat thing as well.
Yes.
But it's using mind mapping, if you will, on it. So it's a pretty cool system as well.
I've yet to get into, and I need to. I have mentioned how cool it is. It does a mind map. It has the ability to link from one note to another, and, you can just overall see it, at any one of those notes. You can see, all right, well, this one also links to these other 30 things. So you can go back and it's like, what did I put about this note or this particular subject before? You can go back and look at it. It's like, oh, this was from a year ago. What did I put in at that time? It's really cool if you can get organized to do it. And I just haven't had that time yet. Maybe I can start doing that for, since I'm going back to school. Maybe I can start doing that for some of this, this time around on my note taking for programming.
By the way, if you didn't notice the pink bow, and this is from my granddaughter,
Yeah,
and she made it for her dad to wear on his earphones. So he's worn also, doing some of the other stuff earlier today. So
I wear it at work. I wear it just about anything. I mean, this is my headset that I use.
Well, at least
daily.
no other guy's going to grab your headset and take off with it. Just saying.
If they did, more power to them. They can enjoy the bow, and I'll have my daughter making me another one.
Okay. Since this is a Linux review podcast, we actually are up to a Linux review. And the Linux we spun and picked was Bazzite, if I'm saying that right.
Or
operating
Bazzite
system.
or
Bazzite. I was calling it Bazzite because I got an E there at the end. That makes the I sound, wouldn't it? You think? But
you would think, but it could also be Bazziti.
But OpenSUSE is really OpenSUSE.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, that's just kind of, okay. Anyway, it is Universal Blue, which I haven't worked much with. Universal Blue is part of Fedora. And Universal Blue is cloud native. It's read only. It updates, comes from the image that's saved on the cloud. Fedora Atomic desktop based. It's a big block that is updated and optimized in the cloud, and then that image is updated onto your computer, which is only a read only. That's what it means. So it makes it really secure and stable.
Right.
They also call it immutable at that time, right?
Correct.
So same type. That's what we had before with like Vanilla OS or Blend OS, some of those other ones that do that.
If you want to think about immutable, if you guys have an Android phone, you're Android is immutable. You can download and install applications, but you cannot uninstall the system applications. You cannot access the root files without going an extra mile or two.
Right. So it's kind of, it gives you like, there's a plus or minus to this.
They kind of call it, some people feel like they're constricted with this.
Correct.
And it's understandable. For some power users, you may need to be able to get into that real quick, or that root or something like that. And that may be a little restrictive. But for others that want that extra security, that extra, as you call it, stability, this is a good one to go with. Immutable systems are going to be usually more stable and secure.
I would kind of put it under that category. The mechanic's car is never working, or his wife's car is never working, because by the time he gets home, he really doesn't want to work on the car because he's been working on cars all day. So let's say you're doing all your art stuff and you're working on that and getting deep into it and working with everything you can possibly that they allow you to work with on arts, right? Well, when you get home, you want to go and jump on Steam or Rufus or some of the other things you might be using, and you don't really want to have to go and dig and see what the bug is or what the problem is.
Right.
So you may use something like Bazzite, so you can actually get to the point that you're playing the game, or the point that you're actually burning your image or whatever you're trying to do, so you don't have to mess with the actual deeper core parts of that operating system.
Right.
It could be rolled back. That's pretty cool too. So if you have something that's not working, let's say you loaded up your NVIDIA graphics driver, which never messes up anything ever.
I've got a story about that too.
That you can roll it back, and you can even roll back to about 90 days worth on that image. So that's pretty cool as well.
And some of them it's usually like a month that back.
Yeah.
30 days. So 90 days is actually really nice too.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it predictable. It makes it stable. You cannot mess it up by accident. Right. I have never messed up my operating systems by accident where I had to reinstall it again. That never has ever happened to me.
you never went in there and did sudo rm
no, don't start giving people things like that, because they'll actually do it. And
don't do that.
Yeah.
If you are interested in what that actually does, you can put it into create a virtual machine with Linux in it and run it in there, because you're not going to destroy your system.
Do you ever use a virtual machine?
Here and there.
I mean, I rarely have used a virtual machine. I probably used it about 2 or 3 times, because it seems like things don't work as good in the virtual things they do in the real thing. So I'd rather get a small solid state drive, plug it into,
They call it bare metal versus, virtualization.
Yeah, but the way I'm doing it is, you're going to have bare metal anyway, because I'm putting it into my 4-way dock, if you will, and dropping that in. So it's actually like having, a chance to switch between 4 different hard drives. So I do get the bare metal effect without having the slow down of, okay, I'm going to use this amount of the memory.
Yet you still have to restart your device.
You do. So, it does have like a package install, if you will. So it's either using what we were talking about earlier, containers or virtualization,
right,
or a mixture of those two. So you basically you have your read-only area, then you have your area you can install packages onto.
They call that your user system.
Yeah, so the reader-only area, but it is called the read-only area, though, right?
Well, I mean, yes, that area is technically
and then
read-only.
The user part is like, okay, this is the part you're going to screw up.
The user space.
The user space, okay. So that's coming from your Vanilla OS days, or what?
No, that's just coming in general.
Because Vanilla OS was the first time I've seen anything like this to start with. And then you had Blend OS, and that was pretty cool as well.
Technically, Dad, your first time to ever see anything like this is Android.
Android, yeah, I know you're going to say that. But we didn't know at the time. We just wanted to make a phone call. Phones had never been good since they started doing all this other stuff on it, okay? It used to be you made a phone call, you received a phone call. It worked great. You might have phone numbers stored in it. But once they started everything else out, you quit being able to make phone calls or receiving phone calls. But hey, look at all these things I can pull up on Facebook. Yeah, okay.
Well, that and there's the other things.
Look, there's
like
another cat video. Look, there's another cat video. Look, there's another cat video.
Now we know what my dad does.
No.
I tried calling him the other night. He didn't answer his phone. Now I
Hey.
know why.
No, that's because sometimes the ringer decides to shut off, and then you go back and you have to adjust the settings. It's like, I did not change the settings,
Yeah.
So,
Or it's
so it must be
changed in
one of
your
those times
pockets.
that, not saying this happens, it might be one of those times, that they're saying, hey, you kept your phone a little bit too long. It's time for you to replace it. So we'll start sending out junk to mess up your phone. No, I'm kidding. They never do that.
Never.
No one's ever gotten in trouble for that.
Apple's never gotten in trouble for that.
Never.
No, I'm just kidding.
Never. I'm kidding.
But
All right.
we're not technically kidding. They start dropping off their support to...
That's the way places usually do that. So, like, if you have a Steam, if you have a Apple Mac that is beyond a certain point, one, they're not going to let you update anymore as far as the operating system itself, and two, they'll start having apps out there that you'd use, their new and greatest app. All of a sudden, you can't get it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's on the blacklist for you.
Yeah. But this distro is kind of geared towards gamers.
It is.
One of the reasons that it kind of caught my attention. I just wanted to see what it was all about. It comes with Steam and Lutris pre-installed. It also has the Heroic Games launcher.
Yeah.
Of course, it comes with FlatHub.
And FlatHub has games.
Oh yeah, all of them. EA Origin, Epic Game Store, the Game of Games, or GOG.
I thought it was the God of Games or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
GOG.com.
GOG.com.
itch.io. So if you guys are interested in a lot of, what do they call it? Indie games.
Yeah.
itch.io is a thing. If you want to know what an indie game is, it's usually a kind of like a single or very small group of people creating a game. It's not like EA.
Right, which would be big.
Yeah. Rockstar game launchers. Of course, it has some emulation, like, your Game Boy, your N64.
Right. So it does have your emulation station and Arch. What's it called? What do they call that? RetroArch.
Yes,
Things like
RetroArch.
that. Yeah.
They have the Ubisoft Connect. They also have my dad's old
Now,
CDs.
Ubisoft was those Rayman things, right?
Yeah.
Rayman Arena and stuff.
Well, that was the way I remember
Yeah, me too.
Ubisoft. They've gotten some other things out there I haven't really played yet, or looked at. And then, of course, it has my dad's old CDs.
I have not tried that yet, so I don't know if it actually works. Should we go out and grab my Westwood Red Alert 2 Yuri's Revenge or something like that?
Dungeon Siege, but I know that's in Steam too. But
yeah, or what's the other one that we had? We had Dungeon Siege was 2, and Dungeon Siege 1, Dungeon Siege 3.
Delta Force.
Neverwinter.
Neverwinter you can install
Delta Force
natively
stuff. Yeah, on Steam now you can
No.
do that.
You could even install it natively on Linux well before Steam.
Yeah.
And then Beanbog took over, and I guess you could call refurbished it a little bit, and re-released it cross-platform.
Yeah, and I mean we found ways to do RE2 and Yuri's Revenge off of Snap.
Yeah,
and that's probably my first introduction to Snap, and that's before you had
right.
all your Snap stores and all the Ubuntu stuff. Which I guess I heard now that maybe most of the distros aren't using Snaps anymore, except only Ubuntu is.
Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Ubuntu has gone pretty much full Snap now to install its games, or install its applications, not just games.
And to do all this stuff, it has like Wine front end put in it. It has like Proton. It has, of course, Lutris is going to be there, and it's also going to have bottles.
Yes.
So it has all these things, Wine Z GUI pre-installed for Windows. The way I understand it, can run some Windows apps, and I haven't tried those yet. And I'll probably mention this now compared to here at the end, which I might do, but the deal is there is so much in Bazzite that we have not covered it all. We haven't been able to look at it all because it just has so many things from so many directions, and you think it wouldn't function well, but it's functioning great. So it's really interesting. It even has the Android apps with
through
Waydroid. And I haven't got a chance to get to that yet, so I don't know if you tried that or not.
I was first exposed to Waydroid in Blend OS.
Okay.
And it worked fairly well. What it would end up doing is unfortunately in Blend, my experience was only one of your monitors, usually your primary, would run a kind of a layer on top of your desktop.
Right.
running Android applications, and they would be windowed. They could be resized and everything, just like your normal Windows or applications that you use otherwise. But you couldn't move it from one monitor to the other at all.
Because that was just a different function inside your operating system.
But it was pretty cool. I unfortunately have not got to try to work with it on Bazzite too much. I did try just a little bit with that at one point or another, and unfortunately just haven't got it to work just yet. That's probably some configuration that I need to go and redo.
Right. And so all that stuff works, okay. But you do have a way to do your package formats. Like we said, it was a read-only area, but the other part that's the user area, you can do Flatpak, which is actually going to be part of its Discover app.
Right.
So most of all those are going to be Flatpaks, which is out at FlatHub. If you want to go out to flathub.com and look at all the stuff you can load those. It has UJust, which I had to go look at. I don't know if it's UJust, or it's UJUST. And those are custom scripts that you can install inside of Bazzite and Universal Blue. It is not really a package, if you will, but it's convenient commands and stuff and scripts.
Right.
So, for instance, it has things like install EmuDeck, so that's one of the ones or fix Steam download speeds, so these little tweaks and twists that you can use, fix Proton hang, so it does have things to help improve your system, and you'll actually use this in terminal, but you'll be using the UJust command. It has Homebrew. So I never heard of Homebrew until I was doing the Apple side of the Apple MacBook Pro that I had, the older one, the 215, before I made it into the Kabutotage. But I was using Homebrew and loading all those, Linux apps that I liked,
right,
in Homebrew. So I thought that was pretty cool. You can actually do that. We were talking earlier about Distrobox. So Distrobox, you can open up another operating system inside of a package or inside of a container, if you will, and you can load it from there, and you'll be using the commands that you're used to. So if you're used to Ubuntu, then you'll be using apt or whatever, right? Install. If you're used to the Fedora stuff, which I don't know if it lets you do that inside there or not, but it'll be DNF. Arch, it'll be Pacman.
You can install whatever distro you want into Distrobox.
The thing you really don't want to do is actually pretend like you're in Fedora and do the DNF on the actual terminal if you're not inside that particular container.
Correct.
Because I actually had it work, but oh my gosh, it took 10 minutes to load something. And it was, before it installed it. So that's really not the way it wants you to do it. That'd be the last thing you do. It does do app images as well. So there's so many different ways that you can load packages. So just about any package or app that you want to get, you can.
Right. And then it has the RPM OS tree, which is something similar to AB root. This is the immutable, how it makes itself immutable. So keeping the user space, the read-only root system read-only, and only updating that when it gets a push from the image that's on the cloud. There is a way to go in and edit the root using the RPM OS tree.
Right.
You can install applications at the root level. Not that you necessarily want to, but if you needed to, it is right there. You can utilize it. What it's going to do is it's going to try to install it. If it succeeds, then it writes it to the root.
Right.
Otherwise, it will roll it back and not actually affect your root any.
Huh. Anyway, the installation's pretty easy. It's a standard Fedora Atomic install, okay?
Right.
You go ahead and set up your USB, bootable USB. I use Belina Etcher. I don't know what you use, if you use Ventoy or...
For this one, I did use Belina Etcher.
Okay.
I used Ventoy. I didn't run into any issues, but, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any additional options that I might have missed out on. Or...
Right. So it does, it's big. It's 8 gigabytes. That's probably the biggest ISO that I did before.
Well,
I mean, I've had some with 4, 3.8. OpenSUSE does that. OpenSUSE also takes a long time to actually install. Mm-hmm. Just kind of like this one took a little while. Fedora takes a little while, but still OpenSUSE took longer, and I don't know if, like I said again, if it's bringing everything over from Germany through the through our network system or not. But anyway, it doesn't. It's not a long time, but it took a little bit long. It's been a little bit longer, but it is one of the bigger images that we work with. I mean,
Yep.
You can find some that are as small as 400 megabytes and stuff like that. So, this one is a little bit bulkier, if you will.
There's a one called DSL, which I think is probably the smallest.
So,
it's really small. It's like, that's impressive. And, Windows used to run under 500 megabytes.
right.
Now it doesn't.
It does not. No, no. In fact, when you get I feel sorry for people that get those SSD cards that are like 125 gigabytes, because Windows is going to be about 80 gigabytes of that,
Yep.
So it doesn't leave you much to work with.
Yep.
All right. So you have some desktop choices. It's pretty cool. You got KDE. So KDE Plasma is there. And that's built from Fedora. I don't know if I say it right. Kinoite. I believe Kyanite. Okay. Then you have GNOME, your regular GNOME stuff, and that's built from Fedora Silverblue.
Yep.
And then you have Decky Loader, and the Decky Loader is actually what looks like Steam Deck when
Have
you
you
load
tried
it in.
that?
I have not. I thought at first that you might be able to get the Steam Deck look. So, I do have a Steam Deck, and when you put those together, you could bounce from the game, which is kind of like the big picture mode, if you know what I'm talking about,
Right.
For your Steam, or you can go into the actual desktop, which looks like a KDE Plasma. So I thought it would do that, but it didn't. And I thought, well, maybe I installed it wrong, but it's not. But you can do the Decky Loader, and you can load that on different actual handheld devices. So that's what we're going to get to here. You actually have different hardware choices that you can make. So depending on your network card, actually my Asus TUF, it's a gaming laptop. It actually had a separate ISO for it, basically.
That's cool.
So it's pretty cool. So some of the stuff you do, your AMD stuff, anyway, so you pick your graphics stuff or your hardware stuff before you actually download whichever ISO you want. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I had I had the desktop, so chose the desktop, NVIDIA, and had to download that.
Right.
I tried both the Kyanite and the Silverblue ones. I tried the GNOME and the KDE. Out of the two, I think KDE worked a little bit better for me.
Right.
My one issue that I had with this operating system, and this may have been a misconfiguration, or maybe it had a what do you call it? A later driver, newer driver.
Newer driver, yeah.
Than what
the latest and the greatest.
The latest and greatest, and might have caused some issue. But what I was experiencing in GNOME is that on occasion my screens would freeze, or what would seem like it was frozen. What actually kind of happened is it was like, you ever had burn-in?
Yeah, like on a screen?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It wasn't really a burn-in, but it acted like that because, you move the mouse and one of my monitors would pick up my mouse, but my other two wouldn't.
Oh.
And it was, you'd adjust your wallpaper or update it, or you could adjust the screen orientation, and that would refresh it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it would be like it was fine.
Like nothing happened at all.
Like nothing happened for all of 10 minutes. And then it would happen again. It was like, oh, man.
No.
Then a restart, and it would stay for a good hour without any problems, and then it would happen again. So I really think that this is probably graphics driver related.
Yeah.
But I haven't had a chance to go back and play with it again.
When I installed it, I've actually got a chance to try it on 3 different systems.
Nice.
So one was my desktop, which I always use, what we're recording on right now. And that's basically use the Bazzite holographic 40. And I don't know, would you say Kyanite? Kyanite. Okay. It's actually the Bazzite stable. And basically, this is a desktop that has a Intel Core i7 5820K, 12 threads, 3.6 gigahertz. It has an AMD Radeon RX 590 graphics card, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have it installed on a 512 gigabyte SSD. We did the KDE Plasma. It's doing the 6.1.2, which that's the newest as far as I know. Wayland. Mostly I'm using Flatpaks. I did use a little bit of Distro Arch as well. Then I also have that Nova X1 Carbon that I was talking about earlier, the 2019 Gen 7. It's not. I didn't use it for gaming at all. I just used it as a regular operating system to see how it worked there. And that has an i5-8265U. I believe it's 8 threads, 3.9 gigahertz as well. It has, just Intel graphics integrated, 620. 8 gigabytes of RAM. I already mentioned that earlier. Bummer.
Darn.
Yeah. And then I have that Asus TUF Gaming A15 laptop. Now, that's probably my newest, I guess my newest system that I do have, but it's still a few years old now. And it was actually probably the lower end of the Asus gaming laptops, but it is running Bazzite Asus-NVIDIA stable, so it's a little bit different.
Nice.
And it has the AMD Ryzen 7 6800 with 16 threads, 4.79 gigahertz. It has the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti mobile and discrete. And then it has the integrated one as well. And then it has the 16 gigabytes of RAM. And I think I loaded it on 256 gigabyte hard drive just to test it out. So
this is for all you hardware buffs out there.
Yeah. I just want you to let you know there's a little bit difference between each one of these. So, I'm going to be running Valheim, if you will. That's one of the games I really like nowadays. And it's most people say it's like Minecraft, but with Vikings. Okay, I can see it. It doesn't have all the pixelated stuff, but hey,
Also doesn't. I don't think it requires near as much
no
memory either.
Oh my gosh, Minecraft is crazy on that, But
that depends if you're doing the Java or you're playing with mods.
But I'm really running close to medium graphics on my desktop. A tough laptop, I'm actually running it with all the high stuff, still getting 60, 70, 80 frames per second, whatever, if it allows me that. So, when I first did this, okay, I took KDE. That was going to be my choice. I took the hardware. I loaded everything up here. And it took a little while to install it on my desktop. And then things were a little bit buggy. It was really weird. So, when I first started it, it took like 5 minutes from the startup to actually load. Kind of like some of the older systems I had, like Garuda. Garuda took a long time to load.
I didn't think Garuda had that much long.
But
compared to Cache, I mean anything compared to Cache.
But this took a real long time, like 5 or 6 minutes. I am not kidding. I actually was timing it. Okay. And I was thinking, okay, it's a large ISO. It's going to take a while, right? It also had some other stuff going on with it. It took, the dock wasn't working right. All the little icons on the right, like if you're going to click on the power thing to not shut down for you, kind of like caffeine, it wouldn't let me get over there to do that. Now that corrected itself the next morning for some reason. I was able to play like Red Alert 2 on it on Steam. That was okay. I tried to do some of the retro emulation stuff on Emulation Station.
And you told me that the Xbox controller wouldn't work.
It would not work. So I don't know what's going on there. After I loaded my ROMs, I mean, the game would load. You'd see the game there. It's functioning, but I could not get it to work. I had other stuff not working. So I stopped using it for a while. And I started using one of my other Linux distros to do work and get things done. And I came back to it a couple weeks later. And I was just kind of frustrated with it. So I was like, oh man, this distro is terrible, right? Well, when I reloaded it or reinstalled it, it was a totally different animal. I don't know if I had a bad install, if there's such thing as a bad install. I don't even know if I could have had a bad image or anything like that. But for some reason, that first one was not working nearly as well. And all of a sudden, it loaded in less than a minute. The dock had no problems with it whatsoever. I got the emulation station to work fine with the, not only one controller, but two controllers, because your mom is just whipping me at Dr. Mario,
So you need a bigger screen?
I need a bigger screen. That must see it. I don't know. Anyway, but everything else is working fine. I mean, the Steam powered games are playing great. The Asus TUF, I told you the newer graphics is playing even at the top levels. The Wi-Fi connections all work just fine, so all my problems there are fine. The printers installed easily. Nice. Instantaneously. I have never had that with every distro on my machines here at home as well as the machines at work. Worked both just fine. No problem whatsoever. Distrobox was kind of cool, kind of like Blend OS or Vanilla OS. And, so I used Arch a little bit on the Distrobox. I loaded my same apps that I always do. Now, some of them were already loaded, but like Krita, Kdenlive, Steam is already loaded. Brave, Firefox is already loaded. Discover is already loaded. Emulation Station, Thunderbird, Proton Mail Bridge. I think the terminal, it says it's Ptykes. I'm not sure how to say that, but
Yeah, I don't know.
PTYXIS. Dolphin works fine on it. That was already loaded. That's this file manager. I use the Nextcloud desktop, the QOwnNotes, Elisa for all my music stuff, OBS for what we're recording here right now. In fact,
we're recording right now.
We're recording on this OBS is on this Bazzite, operating system right now. So that tell you that it's working great. Obsidian, Joplin, Cast. I had YouTube Music. That's why I had to use the Arch Distrobox from. So I had to use it off the AUR. You can do that off the AUR. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Chat GPT, your AI type stuff. Your Lutris is already loaded. LibreOffice, Logos is a web app that I use for my Bible software stuff. Kate, Emulation Station, EmuDeck. Bitwarden, VLC, Audacity. I tried all those. Cider, which is kind of like your Apple version of iTunes, if you will, that you put on there. For
I haven't
Linux.
actually played with that, but I've seen it.
LibreWolf, Discord, GIMP, all those. I didn't have any problems with any of the stuff I'm listed there. Audacity's fine too. So it's just, I didn't have a problem with it. So once that first time after I got, stopped it and then decided to go ahead and reinstall, I haven't had a problem with any of them. And then I installed it off the Tough Asus thing. It worked fine there. I installed it over onto the X1 Carbon, and it worked fine there too. So all these different systems, and I never had a problem. So I don't know what it was with that first one out of the box. Just kind of messed me up. So let's talk about support. Bazzite documentation page has all kinds of links on it to do different things. The gaming guide's there. It's got communities on Discord and Discourse. So Discourse and Discord.
Right. I haven't really used Discourse.
I have never used that either, but I guess that's where they're actually using some of the, the writing and stuff like that for some of the stuff. But you could probably load any app you can think of, at least it's the ones that are currently being used, of course. We can't go back to, I want to use an app that I had back in 1993 with,
Windows.
May not be there anymore. Okay.
1.
I don't have
the Oregon Trail. You probably could actually, but still.
Yeah. So if you have an update problem, you can always roll it back. That works great. The 90 days thing is great on the images. You could choose the hardware you want. It's good support. If you had any OS you want to use besides Bazzite inside of it, inside the containers, you can load that. So if you like Ubuntu, you can load that. If you like, Arch, you can load that. So it's pretty cool that you can do all this stuff. The only problems I had is sometimes when I'll go to turn it off, have you ever okay, I'm done for the night. I go and close it down, and tell it to shut down. And then it has the countdown, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll just go ahead and let it shut down like that. And I'll walk out, go to bed, come back in here and it's still on. And it seems like maybe the Steam is not closing or the Steam, it's keeping it open. I'm not positive. I'm just thinking that the Steam part was keeping it open. It doesn't always do that, but it keeps it from sleeping too. So, before I was actually using the power and making sure it has a little switch inside your little power icon that you can click to keep it from shutting down on you accidentally or going to sleep. But now this wasn't going to sleep anyway. So I don't know if that's just because something's holding it open. One of the apps is holding it from going to sleep. It may be a little bit slower compared to Arch or Nix. It's just a Nix OS. It just seems to be, it's a bigger operating system, right? So it's bulky, has a lot of stuff. The only problem would be if you like minimalist stuff. I want the smallest distro. This is not going to be your distro.
No, go DSL.
The only other little problem I had with it is between the 3 screens that I have set up. Mm-hmm. For some reason, if you went slow between the screens, it would stop
at the edge of the screen,
and then you can continue on. If you go fast, it won't touch it at all. You had that too? What is that?
I think that's just a feature. I don't know. The only time I have that is if I'm moving windows, and I go slow on purpose because I wanted to catch at that edge screen so that it would expand out. It was the hot corners kind of thing.
So the idea there is that you wanted to go just to the edge of the screen. Correct. And it's helping you find that instead of going on across to the next screen. Mm-hmm. Okay. But if you're moving at a little bit more pace, if you will, it doesn't catch at all.
Correct.
So, okay. That's a good thing that they're doing that on purpose. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's the only thing. Like I said, it's bulky. It's got a lot of stuff. So, my only other problem would be the fact that we need more time to explore everything this thing does.
Maybe we can come back.
It's like catching all kinds of stuff in our imagination. The gaming, like, oh my gosh, this is like Steam Deck or Nabarro or some of these other, gaming things. Pop OS has a lot of the gaming stuff in it and stuff. You're like, oh, I got to do the gaming stuff. But then it also says, I'm going to put all these container stuff there so you can actually use all this DistroBox stuff. Oh, I like that, like vanilla and blend. And oh, it's got this over here. It's got this over that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much you can do here.
And we're ADD, so
a little bit, yeah. Squirrel. So it's kind of
we should definitely. I think we're definitely going to come back and look at this one again.
Yeah, I mean,
a little later.
I'm not saying I'm actually going to be necessarily getting rid of it either, because, like I said, I never really had the Steam stuff playing so smoothly as I do right now. Now, I haven't really ever tried your Lutra stuff.
Little to no issue installing this. I actually had zero issue installing this.
After that first one, I didn't either.
And what was fun is I've gotten to the point where I've just about memorized how to keep my encrypted drive at first installation. I've got that nailed down now.
Yeah,
so
because you've been doing it so many times.
Yeah. So I've got that nailed down, and I keep it as my home drive so I can carry it across different operating systems. I have run into a couple times where taking that over to one operating system to the next.
So basically, that's how Jamie's working on with his home drive, so he can keep his home drive and all the data he has on that he's been working on, and move from one distro to the next distro.
Correct.
So you make your home drive. Usually, you have to do it after the install,
right?
And then you have to go inside
the FSTAB.
Oh yeah, the FSTAB.
FSTAB.
The FSTAB. And you had to alter that to make sure it goes to the right. And you had to put the big old long name that they have for your CD partition and stuff. So, okay, so the way I'm working that now, I used to do that. I was doing that for a while, and that's, not easy necessarily.
But you do it now on the little hot swaps?
I do it on the Nextcloud.
Oh, you're keeping your Nextcloud?
So what I got is my Nextcloud is set up to sync, right? Mm-hmm. I do have my documents section.
There you go.
That I put across all my devices through the Nextcloud sync.
That's
so,
good, yeah.
It's a little bit slower at first. But it's not huge, but it's a little bit slower at first. And then, things I got more room to work with, I might bring my music across or something like that. But I do it all through the Nextcloud. So you could do either one. It really works. But if you're using multi-drives like I am, which sometimes is easier to do multi-distros on multi-drives, that way you don't have to mess with the grub as much, it does help to be able to have some type of sync system. But, so ease of installation, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
I'd say pretty much 10 out of 10.
All right.
It's a lot of guided stuff, so.
Yeah. I mean, the only difference is, if you're used to doing an Ubuntu, then Fedora is going to be a little bit different. But once you do a Fedora, it's going to look just like a Fedora.
The one thing that I dislike about this is that it's not a live drive. It's every time I have booted into the USB, it's always been, are you ready to install? It's not allowing you to go and test out the installation.
Okay.
And kind of play around.
So
with
usually you can make a choice either to install now or to try it out.
Right.
And then in the try it out part, you can go ahead and do the install if you want to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I see.
So this one didn't have that. So out of the features, aside from the other 120,000
I'm giving it 10 out of 10 just because there's a ton of features. More features than we can use between.
Yeah.
And we probably had about, 5 or 6 weeks on this thing, and it's
still there.
Yeah. Performance, I'd probably give it about 9 out of 10.
It works really nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 8 out of 10 if we're going to get really technical on speed, but it's not really lagging. It just, there's a noticeable difference on Arch, but Arch is going to be probably about as lean as I'm going to get on any of my systems. So,
right.
Ease of use. Now, the ease of use, I gave it a 7 out of 10 just because of all the stuff it has there.
Right.
Your new guys are not going to be able to know exactly what DistroBox is. They're not going to be using all these different distros to start with. That they're not going to understand necessarily. Of course, they may not be in the terminal that much, but they're going to load packages different. Now, a new guy could sit inside Discover and just load all his stuff off of Discover and be fine. So,
Absolutely.
So that's the only reason why I gave that. It does have good documentation. I give that an 8 out of 10. So overall, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. That's pretty good.
I'm going to give it about a 9, 8 out of 10 as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I would have put it in simple stable like I've done most of the ones we've had lately, but just because of all this extra stuff it has, I put it more at neutral stable. Yeah, a beginner can, if they stay on the beaten path,
Right.
will be fine. And if they don't stray left or right, if they stray left or right, they could probably get into some problems.
The weeds.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
And, and I think it's challenging enough for the experience as well that they can sit there and play with different things too, because it has so many different tools it can use.
Absolutely. So let's get to our verse for the week, or for the month, or for the episode here.
We put it as verse of the week, but yeah, I mean, the next episode would be like 3 weeks later to a month.
So verse for the episode is Deuteronomy 31, 5-6. It's, be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. And this is in the English Standard Version.
Yeah, so this is, it's talking about fearing the indigenous population that's there, the Israelites, and these would be the giants that's in the other land there. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's giants, we're scared of them. But God told them that I will protect you. Listen to me, follow me, I will protect you. And see, they did not. So they ended up roaming around in the desert for 40 years, okay, in the wilderness, if you will. So it says here, that there's an assurance that he's going to protect you. Okay. And so you got to have your faith in him to start with. So for example, Jamie had a helicopter ride back when he was first starting college, and he had a bicycle accident that put a handlebar up underneath his rib and actually ruptured his liver and
lacerated my spleen.
And lacerated your spleen. And this was crazy. So we get this call. I actually had, I believe, the flu at the same time. And I'm trying to run up to about 2 hours away over into New Mexico from where we're at.
Made it an hour.
And we were flying. We were definitely flying. Thank goodness I don't have the cars that I have now. But we got there. And once I saw Jamie, I was okay. And the reason why I was okay was that God gave me that assurance that everything was going to be all right. He had taken care of, no matter what happened.
Yeah.
And they're going to load my son into a helicopter and fly him over to the hospital from the main city. And that was one of those things that, you're not usually going to be real calm about as a parent. But the deal is, as an application here, courage is not the absence of fear, but it was really the presence of faith. So faith that God is going to be walking with you and protecting you. Faith is God walking with you if you know him. And see, the only way you're going to know him is if through Jesus, his son, if you trust Jesus as your Savior and Lord. And if you trust him, you'll have that courage because he's walking with you and he's going to protect you.
Absolutely.
It's not that you're not going to fear stuff. The fear will be there. But even in that fear that God has it taken care of. So
David and Goliath, the lion's den, I guarantee you they had fear, but they overcame it with faith.
All the apostles. So if so, if you know Jesus, if so, you have courage through everything you are walking through today because God's walking through with you and he's protecting you.
Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah. So remember that in closing, love God, love your neighbor. Keep your mind sharp and also your computer with Linux and open source.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys. Live long and prosper.
God bless.